What he works
Oh.
Okay, Joe.
Alrighty. We will start the meeting for today's May 27th for the Whitley County Board of Zoning Appeals. We'll call the meeting to order and have roll call, please.
Jack Green.
Here.
Kelly Sheath.
Here.
Danny Wilkinson.
Here.
Joe Wolf.
Present.
And Doug Wright.
Here.
We have before us the meeting, or the minutes from the April 22nd meeting. Have you all had a chance to look at them? And so we'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the minutes from the April 22nd, 2025 meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Kelly, a second by Doug to accept the minutes. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Our next we'll move on to our next order of business, which is the oath of witnesses. If you plan to speak for any reason tonight, for or against, or if you have questions, please stand and Liz Deckard, our legal counsel, will swear you in.
Please stand and raise your right hands.
You guys too.
Okay.
Whoever's representing.
Yeah, if you're gonna speak, just it's easier to take it now.
Okay.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that any statements you make before the board tonight will be the truth? If so, state I do.
I do.
You can be seated.
Seeing no old business, we will go ahead and move on to new business. The first item on the agenda is 25W Variance 13, William and Diane Johnson. The property is currently zoned Lake Residential. The petition says here, I'm sorry. I'm moving a little bit too quick. So to tell you how we run the meeting, we will go ahead, read your petition and then the petitioner will come forward, or a representative of, and state what they want to do with the property. And then we will open the floor for anybody speaking for or against, or who has questions. And then the petitioner will have time to answer questions or rebut. So.
Joe?
Yeah.
I get to speak in there somewhere too.
Oh yes, staff will give their report. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's been a long day.
That's fine.
Got him flustered.
You're off the hook.
So. All right, now on to 25W Variance 13, William and Diane Johnson. Currently zoned Lake Residential, the petitioners, members of a trust owner of the subject property, are requesting a development standard variance of the required front setback of the property at 6550 East McGuire Road. Proposed is construction of a new three-season room addition. Staff, your report, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me get to the slides here. So, as was mentioned, this is at 6550 East McGuire Road. We actually looked at the petitioner's other property a couple meetings ago. This is zoned Lake Residential, comprised of one lot, Lot 9 of McGuire Second Edition. Also, and this is somewhat important tonight, they also own the area between the lot line and the lake shore, which was acquired in 2021 by a quiet title action. Currently improved with a residence. There was a variance granted in 2006, which was prior to the acquisition of that shoreline parcel, which allowed the existing covered deck to be constructed approximately 36 feet from the shoreline. The petitioner also has a letter of map amendment from 2007 after the construction of the dwelling, or with the construction of the dwelling, That Loma, which removes them from the floodplain, only applies to the residents. The proposed Three Seasons room may or may not fall under that Loma. That is something that we would, assuming this variance is approved, that we would work with them to make that determination as part of the construction process. But as opposed to some Lomas which apply to the entire property, or a meets and bounds description, it says residents only in this case. So something to be figured out in the future if this proceeds. What is being proposed is to construct a 16 by 18 Three Seasons room with a 24.2 plus or minus foot setback from the shoreline. That is just over the platted lot line onto the shoreline parcel, which we'll see into in a second. The code application minimum front setback off of the lake shore is 35 feet, which is measured from the property line. Since they own to the lake shore now, that takes it back to, again, roughly where that previous variance was. Ending up, the requested variance then is 10.8 feet, plus or minus. So going to the references, highlighted in blue is the subject parcel, and you can see the surrounding properties. Most line up relatively well. When we did the averaging, wound up being that the averaging for this area doesn't really help their case because everything lines up fairly evenly. But you can also see a little bit here. You do have some property owners owning to the lake shore and some don't. So there's a couple neighbors here, there, and so on. Really just dependent on which ones opted into that quiet title action. So closer view of the subject parcel. Again, you can see the area to the lake shore and the existing home. Oblique view and the proposed site plan. Highlighted there in red is the location of the proposed Three Seasons room. The existing covered deck, I believe, is right here. And then the site plan overlaid over the aerial. As mentioned, the Three Seasons room would cross just over the boundary line of that platted lot. Going to the review criteria, staff doesn't feel that this would be particularly injurious to public health, safety, morals. The proposed addition allows for plenty of room still around the entire building, doesn't impact the health of the adjacent properties on either side. Use and value may or may not affect the value. This would be noticeably closer to the lake shore than, as mentioned, most of the other properties. However, whether that really has any substantial impact, kind of up for determination. Not likely to have impact on use because, again, this is on the lakeshore side and not on either of the neighboring sides. In terms of a practical difficulty, again, this may or may not have a particular practical difficulty. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm reading back through my notes here. So again, you may have some difficulty in that the platted line was farther back, so there may still be some practical difficulty there, but that could also be countered by the fact that you don't have very many similar encroachments throughout the entire, not an entire area, but throughout the immediately adjacent structures. So with that, any questions for me?
So this is the second variance at this location towards the shoreline.
Correct. Importantly, they acquired that area to the lake shore in between times.
Any other questions? Thank you, staff. Would petitioner or representative of the petitioner please come forth, state your name and address and what you intend to do.
Okay. William Johnson, 6550 East McGuire Road, and we're just trying to put a sunroom on for the grandkids. And so that's what we're trying to do. It wouldn't encroach left or right, or I should say east or west, anything. It's just coming out front.
Any questions of the petitioner? See none, thank you. You can.
Oh, I do have
Oh,
one. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I have to think because I'm still trying to understand. No. So if it ends up being in a floodplain, you're willing to take that
Yeah.
that risk of having that there?
Yeah. We've dealt with that before.
Has it ever flooded? Has the lake
No.
ever gone? I'm not around
No.
the lake as much. Just
No.
Any other questions? You may have a seat.
Okay.
We're going to open the floor for anybody to speak for or against who has questions.
And when I speaking with Brent, we're depending on the meeting, we were getting different bids of the size, no more coming out, but the width of it, we're just getting different bids on that right now. So Brent said to make sure I just
to make sure that you guys knew that the width may be different, but you won't be encroaching in any
No.
setbacks.
on the east or west side.
All right, thank you. Anybody to speak for or against? Seeing none, we will bring it back to the board. And board, what's your pleasure?
On 25W variance 13, I'd like to make a favorable motion.
We have a favorable motion from
Second.
Jack, second from Doug. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Votes 4-1. 4. Okay, thank you very much. You may go ahead and leave now if you would like to, or you can stay for the rest of the meeting and enjoy hearing me fumble over my tongue tonight.
Tell the grandkids you guys said hi.
Okay, moving on to the next one. 25W variance 14, Kerry and Kaydean Geist. This property is also currently zoned LR. The petitioners, co-owners of the subject property are requesting a standards variance of the required setbacks for construction of a new home on a property located at 7599 North Brown Road. Staff, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is 7599 North Brown Road, zoned LR. It is currently improved with a residence which would be removed. That was constructed, I don't have that noted. It's not a really old home, however. What is being proposed is construct a new residence with a 12-foot deep porch on the roadside, the front side. That also would reuse the lower level garage location. I believe they're making it a little bit bigger than the existing, but still retaining that basement garage, which you'll see on, if you've been up there, you know the slope, and I'll show you the topography in a second. Notes say built 1983. So the setbacks are shown there in that table. The one that is of concern is the proposed 28.2 feet from the roadside setback, and the code requires 35 feet for a front setback, resulting requested variance is 6.8 feet. All of the other setbacks are compliant, as you can see. So this is the aerial photo. Existing dwelling is right here, and you can see the driveway accessing into that lower level. Topography, if I zoom in, probably can see this a little bit better. You can see the slope going down to Brown Road definitely is puts this house about 8 to 10 feet higher than the road level. Oblique view, just for another perspective. The proposed plot plan and the plot plan overlaid on the aerial. The main body of the house, which is this, is actually compliant with the required front setback. It is only the open porch that would actually encroach. Did we give them copies of this too?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So we received the floor plans and elevations earlier today, so I included these here as well. So the upper one is the roadside, quote-unquote, front elevation. You can see the porch that is proposed. And then this is the garage side, so the southern-facing one. You can see that porch again sticking out, and then how the garage would be on that lower level. And then the main floor and basement floor plans here as well for reference. Again, the porch in question is here, and I believe this portion of the porch is the part that actually comes within that front setback. So going to the review criteria, again, staff doesn't feel that this would be injurious to public health, safety, etc. In particular, in this case, because that 8-foot difference in grade already has more impact on public safety than the encroachment would be in terms of traffic safety from Brown Road. Staff doesn't feel like this would particularly affect use and value because, again, it's on the other side of the road. You already have permitted 15-foot setbacks from the roadside because those are lakeshore, so this would be somewhat imperceptible overall. Doesn't affect use at all given the proximity to the nearest homes to the north and south. And then finally, strict application. You have two factors. One, the topography generally, and then more specifically because they are reusing the existing garage location, they don't have much of any other option. They could turn the entire house 90 degrees and be compliant, but as you saw from the floor plans, that just doesn't really work that well. They could eliminate the porch, but that does affect the overall value of the home, and perhaps actually would impact the value of the area adjacent if it's not as nice of a home as what you might be thinking. So there might be solutions out there, but there are also practical difficulties that are specific to this lot as well. So any questions for me?
I don't see any. Thank you, staff. The petitioner or representative of, please come forward and state your name and address and tell us what you want to do with the variance.
Jake Whitaker, 3214 Cedar Valley Drive, New Haven, Indiana. And we're looking for your approval to extend that front porch closer than the 35-foot setback. And with the, it's kind of hard to tell just from this, but with the topography of that built into that hill, if you turn that sideways, you'd end up with a kind of a weird tunnel and no natural light. And so trying to get that all to fit on there within the setbacks, that's what we're seeking your approval to do. And it is sitting up on the other side of the road, and there's just farm ground and stuff behind it. It doesn't really block anybody's view or anything.
Any questions of the representative staff? Seeing none, you may have a seat.
Thank you.
We'll open the floor up to anybody to speak for or against. Seeing nobody, go ahead and close the public hearing and we'll bring it back to the staff. Or for, I'm sorry, the board. So, board,
I move we approve 25W variance 14 with the proposed variance is listed.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to grant 25W variance 14. So all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. You may stay or you guys may leave or and do whatever you want to do the rest of your evening. So thank you. Okay. On to our next one. Is 25W variance 15. Michael and Laraina Seigel. Property is currently zoned Lake Residential. The petitioner, owner of the subject property, is requesting a development standard variance for setbacks encroaching to construct a new detached garage and the variances of the lot standards for future split. Staff, if you would please give us your report.
Sure thing. So bringing this one up, we've got, this is not currently addressed, but it would be approximately 2389 East Schram Avenue. This one, I believe we heard from the petitioner with a different variance not too long ago as well, or at least one in the same area. Zone Lake Residential, this is Lot 2 and part of one of Farron's subdivision recorded in 1950, which is currently improved with a detached garage, goes with one of the houses along the lakeshore. What is being proposed is to remove part of that existing garage, which would be replaced with a standalone garage. The part that was of the existing garage that still stays would become its own standalone garage. Then revising the lot lines to create two separate parcels, so the two garages would be one on each of the new parcels. Doing so would require replatting as lots because this is generating such a lot split would actually create a new buildable lot and so no longer would be exempt under the platting requirements. So you have two sets of variances. One is the front setback for the new garage being proposed. So the front setback off Schram would be 18.8 feet, as you can see there in the table. The front setback off Wilkin would be compliant. And then the remaining existing remainder of the existing garage, you can see there would be compliant as well, or would be legal non-conforming in the case of the Schram Road setback. New construction would be what we'd be looking at for the variance. However, when you get into the lot standards variances, because this does require replatting and that triggers this being considered, because you are creating a new lot, you have to apply the new lot standards. This isn't just simply shifting lot lines around or adding area like we sometimes see with replats. This would actually create a new lot. And in doing so, the side setbacks, lot area, lot width, and lot frontage all would wind up needing to be varied because of that application of the new lot standards. I won't go into all of them, but you can see there in bold are all of the different variances in question. So going to reference materials, highlighted there in blue is the subject parcel. Again, it is comprised of 1.5 lots. Schram Avenue on the south, Wilkin Avenue on the north, Wilkin Road Avenue, I forget what, that's road. A little closer view with the existing garage. So this is the submitted site plan. This portion of the existing garage would remain. This portion would be removed and replaced with this garage. So ultimately, you would have this and this remaining, and then tract 1 and tract 2 as proposed. Overlay here, highlighted in blue and purple, are the footprints of the 2 detached garages, and then tract 1 and 2 are there as well. Going to the review criteria, again, the setback variance, staff doesn't feel like would have much, if any, injury to the public health, safety, morals. We have similar setback variances throughout the area. Lot dimensional standards could be injurious, particularly if these lots wound up being used for residences. We have lot areas established for a reason, one of which is to provide at least a minimum standard for living. That's not the proposal. The proposal is for detached garages. So if these are only used for non-habitable buildings, this may be a moot point. But the concern would be is if we do go forward and have it be habitable. Going to the use and value question, not likely that the setback variances would affect use and value. It's a minimal difference of only 1/2 foot in terms of the front setback along Schram Avenue, barely even noticeable. And again, we have variances and legal non-conforming situations of setbacks throughout the area. In terms of the dimensional variances, there may be some impact possibly if you consider this would be intensifying the overall development density. However, again, if it's only for detached garages, that's what's already there now. So it would be related back to existing dwellings. So if that's maintained throughout the future, it's not likely that this would be intensifying the area. And if that's the case, it's not likely to impact use and value. Finally, strict application. In terms of setbacks, the existing lots already enjoy, because they predate the 2006, they already enjoy the 5-foot side yard setbacks. This is with a replatting winding up applying the new code standards, so the setback variances may have practical difficulties with them. The overall lot dimensional variances, maybe, maybe not. It may wind up being more of a intensification without really a difficulty to go with it. But again, if it's only for storage, it may not be quite so critical. Which leads me to my suggested condition with this variance, and this is similar to similar cases where we've had variances for lot area elsewhere in Lake Residential for garages. If this variance is approved, that a plat covenant and a deed restriction be recorded that the lots aren't to be used for residences or for habitation without further approval by the BZA. So it could be used for what's being proposed, detached garage, but you couldn't have an apartment or a single-family dwelling on there without coming back to the board for further review, which avoids those concerns that I've mentioned already. So with that, any questions for me?
So we're looking at this as one variance tonight instead of two.
You have the setback variance for the new garage, which is off Schram Road, and then you have a set of variances that are related to the proposed split of the lot into tracts 1 and 2. So you can work with the petitioner to figure out whether they are all taken together or whether they should be taken separately. But yes, tonight you're considering all of them.
Okay, thank you, staff. Any other questions of staff?
Does there, on the suggested condition about that it not be used for residences, if, you know, we've had a lot of home-based businesses or startups in garages, would that need to come back before here if they would do that, or should that be included in a condition as well? Would you recommend? I'm just saying, like, if you know, if they were to sell or something like that, maybe they don't have any plans, but if they were to sell, that covenant's there that it can't be a residence, but what's to stop someone from going in there and starting a welding shop?
So if one, welding shops I believe aren't allowed in like residential.
Wow.
But it's okay.
People break the rules all the time, Nathan.
It's fine. That's fine. If it were a non-traffic generating home occupation, so you're working on a buddy's car that he's paying you to do, so it's technically a business, but it's non-traffic generating. I don't think anybody would really know, and I don't think there would be any issue with that. Traffic generating home occupations, one, there would be a question whether this would even be a home occupation because it would be on a different parcel from the actual residence. But assuming that we do have that, traffic generating home occupations, and then other businesses in Lake Residential, most other businesses are also special exceptions. So they would all come back to you anyway.
Okay. It's just so tight going down in there to begin with, so.
No, it's a fair question. So I think my biggest concern would be the residents and having people live on these lots, despite the area being smaller than what one would otherwise expect for a residence.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Nathan. Would the petitioner or representative of please come forth and tell us what you would like to do with your variance?
My name's Mike Seigel. I live at 2400 East Schram, across the street from this area. And we own 2 lakefront properties, wanting to split the back and put one with each one with a storage garage on each one. The building's going to actually be littler than what's there now. As that one's, the part I'm tearing down is 24 by 36. I'm going to put up 24 by 30 in the opposite direction, just to give the 5 foot or somewhere in there on each of the lots from the building, so they're not tight to the property. And that's it. Just want to split the lot, and the garage that I'm going to tear down is about 45 years old, and it's 8 inches lower than the road, so it's full of water every time it rains. The highway department does a real good job taking care of the road, but now it's higher than the garage. Not their fault. I'm glad they take care of the road.
That's the way it's designed to be.
Yeah.
So we don't have water on the road.
Yeah.
But
and we don't.
So okay. Now you want to split the properties. What are you looking at as far as splitting them for future sale or
yes,
family or
the garage that I'm not tearing down? We live straight across from that one. We're in the process of building next door, and then I would keep the one where the new garage is, put boats in. I got a variance 2 months ago. We haven't started the new house on the other one, so we're going to end up with 2 houses, and I want 2 garages across the street, which I'm going to sell the one with the existing house.
Which would result in a smaller lot than the code requires.
So.
Correct.
Yeah, they'd be somewhere close to 40 foot wide, each lot.
If the garage is going on, you mean? Or the road? You mean? Is there anything similarly that has been done? It's not on the map, but if you go
West
coming in, I get
toward Fox. Because Wilkin goes west and then turns up the hill, turns into Crampton on the north side.
Well, I guess coming back, like, I looked at all these along here and going back, I mean, almost every residence has,
Correct.
and it looks fairly new, but I don't recall.
That would be from Ode 102 to Schram.
Okay.
There's 5 or 6, and there's a garage behind every property, all but one.
But it looks like some of them are large. I mean, the lot size looks a little.
I don't know if anybody's actually split one, but most of them are probably 40-foot lots. I started with a 50-foot lot and bought 29 point something, so I had approximately 80, and I'm wanting to turn it into about 240s. And that's what's most of that area is 40-foot lots.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a variance or two for setbacks, but we haven't had any, at least in this immediate vicinity, for lot areas, because the petitioner's right. They aren't really split too frequently. They just are taken as were platted, and many of them are platted at 40 feet, and I think some may even be smaller than that. But 40 and 50 are pretty common.
Okay. Any other questions of our petitioner? Seeing none, if you'll have a seat. I know it sounds redundant, but we'll ask if anybody's here to speak for or against. Seeing nobody, we will bring it back to the board. Board, what would you like to do? Or do you have some comment or anything?
I move we approve petition 25W variance 15 filed by Michael and Laraina Seigel with the suggested condition that no residents be put on that these two new properties.
I'd second that.
Danny has made a motion, Jack has seconded to approve 25W variance 15 with the condition that the plat covenant and deed restriction be recorded that these lots were not to be used for residences without further approval by the BZA. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, the motion passes 4-1. You may go ahead and leave. Clerk is out. All right, moving on to our last piece of business. 25W variance 16, developmental standard variance. The property is currently zoned APM, Industrial Park Manufacturing. The petitioner, owner of the subject property, is requesting a development standard variance of the required front setback for construction of a new industrial building and a variance for parking surface on the property located at 2155 East, 100 South. Staff, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So going to the summary. This is 2155 East 100 South. That's at the corner of 100 South and US 30, directly across from AGA Glass, and then across US 30 from Sailrite, and across from the new REMC solar field as well. Overall area is 4.22 acres. However, less than 1 acre of that is actually out of the floodplain or above the floodplain, if you want to think three-dimensionally. That does come into play for the variance because the overall building area is is limited because of that floodplain and floodway. What is being proposed is to construct a 90 by 50 foot tow truck garage on that high ground. I believe the garage would actually have an overhang as well, but we measure to the footprint, so that doesn't come into play. Also to be proposed is installation of a gravel drive and parking lot surrounding it. The code does require that parking areas are to be paved. We have looked at this before for industrial areas because of heavy vehicles, but the code still does say that parking areas need to be paved. The setback variances are from US 30 and 100 South. US 30 has a 60-foot setback, which they are proposing to be 35 feet, and 100 South has a 40-foot setback, which is proposed to be 34.5 feet. Do note that because 100 South, the actual road pavement itself, veers southward, that setback is to the property line, not to the actual edge of pavement, which is significantly larger than what you normally would see because of that curve in the road. You'll see that in the aerials in a second. The remaining setback, which is a side setback off of the Eel River, is compliant because of the deep width there of that floodplain getting back to the river. Going to aerial views, as mentioned, US 30 is running diagonally across the picture, 100 South there, east and west, AGA, Sailright, RMC's property up here in the corner. Closer view with the topography turned on. This was filled by a previous owner to fill in that higher ground. I forget the exact year, but I believe it was around 2005, under a previous flood code, so that filling was actually permissible at the time, but they never pursued getting a LOMAR or a LOMA for that to actually be taken out of the floodplain. The petitioner actually went through all of the different engineering and surveying legwork to go to FEMA and say, hey, this is actually higher than the floodplain. We need to be taken out. So they received that documentation for the LOMAR back in March to remove it. This is the floodplain, just for reference. The hatched area here is floodway as per DNR's modeling. The dark purple area is floodplain. You'll notice that there is an oddity that the floodplain goes around this high area, but the floodway actually goes through the middle of it. Floodways don't actually work like that. That is a function of DNR's modeling and some of the assumptions they made in that modeling. Logically, the floodway would go around this high ground too, because it's high ground. That said, FEMA's LOMAR, letter of map revision, is from a higher authority than DNR, so DNR defers to it. So their letter from FEMA takes this area out of the floodplain, which is shown on the site plan right here, that line, proposed garage location here. And the petitioner can give a little bit more insight on exactly why that location was chosen as opposed to others. For example, over here, I do mention in the staff report that putting it on this side may have a little bit of a chance of impacting the floodplain, just depending on how close things may get. So this location would have less of a chance, but even so, high ground is still high ground, no matter how close to the edge you get. So this is the proposed site plan overlaid on the aerial. Highlighted in blue is the area that has been removed from a floodplain by the LOMAR. The red is, of course, the proposed garage. And again, going back to the idea of the parking lot surface being gravel, it's my understanding that it would basically be around the building on that high ground. petitioner has told us in conversations that the remainder of the property, because it is floodway, is difficult to work with, and their original intent was to put parking down there. But in the event of a flood, it would be very hard to remove vehicles from that in a timely fashion, especially since flood waters there tend to go up and down pretty rapidly. So right now, it's my understanding that that area would be pretty much left untouched, and probably for agriculture. Going to the review criteria, I won't go through all of this. This has a lot more detail in the written staff report, but I will highlight the idea that there are practical difficulties because of the floodplain. The entire buildable area is less than 1/4 of the overall site area. That said, the exact placement of the building contributes to whether a variance is needed. There are other locations that might be compliant, but whether those actually create more difficulty for them versus where it is proposed is something that the petitioner can talk about. For the gravel, proposed gravel, again, we've seen this elsewhere where we have industrial uses that have heavy vehicles using gravel. And so that's not out of the norm, and like I said, we've seen that before. However, I do recommend one condition, that the driveway itself and at least 10 feet farther, that the driveway in the right-of-way and then at least 10 feet onto the parcel be paved. And that is to protect the integrity of the road itself from having gravel being brought onto the county road and so on. So that is one reason that we have a pavement requirement. So that should help mitigate that and then still allow for gravel to be used throughout the rest of the property. Any questions for me?
Nathan, does there have to be, I know it's not adjacent on all sides, but does there need to be some type of buffer? Because I believe there is, even though it's across the road, there is a residential. I don't know if that's zoned ag or. So
let me double check. I believe the 60-foot is inclusive of that, but let me double check on the zoning here real quick, and Brent may beat me to it because he's just that good. Okay.
I'm going to.
So it is industrial. The RMC property is zoned industrial. To the south is industrial and commercial, and only to the west across the river is residential, and their setback that direction is very significant. So the additional 10-foot buffer that you're talking about applying would only apply to the riverside. You did remind me as well another question that you had earlier before the meeting. For comparison's sake, the proposed location from US 30, that setback, is significantly closer than most of the buildings along this area from the river on eastward to the county line. Most of the industrial buildings are set back farther. However, when you look at Columbia City proper, those buildings are quite a bit closer to US 30. The KFC's setback, for example, is almost identical to what is being proposed here, about 35 feet. So just to give you some perspective of, while this is out of character for this particular area, it is comparable to what we have in town. So again, for perspective.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, if the petitioner would come forth and state what you want to do.
Good evening, Jarrell Tucker, 505 East Front Street, South Whitley. I am the operations manager for All Pro Towing, Columbia City Iron Metal, A&S Oversize, Easy Storage. We own a lot of different companies. The purpose of this, it is owned by S&K Stuff. That's one of our holding companies. We are looking to put our All Pro Towing yard at this location. The 50 by 90 building would house all of our tow trucks, and then we would have an exterior bullpen, kind of in that corner north east, kind of that northeast corner there. We're kind of stuck to this layout. There's overhead power lines, which I don't know if you have those highlighted anywhere.
Yeah,
I can kind of see them on that. We did talk with the REMC on those, so that's a part of the setback also. As you know, with overhead lines and towing equipment, all that kind of stuff, we want to stay as far away from that as possible. So that's kind of why we were stuck having the building on this end and not the bullpen or a storage area on this end, because we don't want to be anywhere near that with any of our equipment. We did petition Highway Department. They've granted us driveway to be inter-parallel with Williams Drive. It'd be a 40-foot approach, and then we come down to, initially we said something around 20 foot is what I believe Nathan had recommended. And there will be no full-time employees out of this. It's mainly whenever we get a call, an employee would go grab a truck if they don't have one at home already. And then we will have a small office there, 18 by 18 in the corner. We have talked to the city about water and sewage, just to have that there. It's going to be a wood frame, metal siding, like pole barn structure. I believe that's about it.
Joe, the bullpen, is that, will you actually, when you tow vehicles, like if you impound someone, will it be there?
Yes. Yes. So currently we have them down at our other property, but now everything would be in one location. So all impounds would go there, whether it's police impounds or, and then regular accident vehicles that we would get, car deer, anything like that.
So will that area be fenced?
Yes. Yes, we would have a fence, but working with Brent, there's no variance needed for fence because we are in the county, and all the fencing would be on our own property.
And then is there a maximum capacity, like for impounded vehicles? I mean, if there's a real wild weekend, and
I guess if we ever got into that, we have other properties that we could get into, but the intent would be to use our usable area there that would be in the fence with it being secure.
Do you have any idea how many vehicles that can accommodate?
Right at this moment, we have down at Easy Storage, we have 3 semi-trailers from accidents and 1 semi-truck stored there. It would be down there. At our Columbia City Iron Metal location, I believe we have 3 impounds and about 5 accidents. Where you run into trouble with some of the impounds and accidents is if they don't come pick them up, or they incarcerate for a long time, they end up not picking them up, so we have to go through about a 6-month process to get them titles. I will say on the east end of that building, so where that 18-foot office is, inside of there, we'll put nicer, right now our nicer impounds are just sitting outside. So our nicer cars that come up, and by that I mean like 10 years and newer, will actually go inside. So that'll have a side door, and we'll put our impounds that are in better shape inside. And then some police impounds have to be inside. Like right now, I didn't count it, but there's a police impound in Easy Storage that is inside for inspection. So this will also make it easier for the police when they'll have, right now, they either have to go down to Easy Storage in a barn with no electric, or we have to put that in one of our buildings where our mechanics are working, so there's a lot of human interaction around it, and they don't like that. So this will be a location where nobody's in, and it's more secure and with cameras in it. So part of this will also help the local law enforcement with that end of it and keep our impounds safer.
Have you done any like soil borings where that raised area is?
We have not.
To determine the stability of that, because I mean it's been a long time, but I remember when that was just kind of it seemed like a swamp. So I see where it's raised, but I just, to put a building on there and then gravel around it with heavy truck usage. I'm just not gonna lie, it's concerning.
So Terry and Sally Craig owned that at the time, and I actually worked for them at that time, so I was fresh out of high school pretty much. And it was Seigel was the name of it, Eagles backwards, but that was Terry and Sally Craig. They owned the Craig Excavating out of Syracuse, Indiana, and I worked for them during that time. So when they put that fill in, they went in and scraped top dirt and put that in, and they layered it in with the sheet split. My brother-in-law at the time, Pete Seigel, overseeing that project. I actually double checked with him before I bought that lot to kind of get a reminder and what he remembered about it. He kind of confirmed what I already knew. So if that helps you any, that's what I know about it. There's no concrete in there. There is some asphalt, which that won't hurt us. If that helps you any, what I know about it, but once we know, part of the building, we run it.
So it has been filled and compacted.
Yep.
Then, sure. What you're saying. Okay.
And then you're requesting to do gravel instead of asphalt.
Correct.
Do you have the plan down so that withstands the durability of the tow trucks coming in and avoids runoff and?
Yeah. I mean, Steve was looking at some of that development on the stone base.
For what?
Just the parking.
Action.
Yeah.
So we have trouble now. We use Fort Wayne Metals. We rent some space off Fort Wayne Metals, and we have to patch their asphalt at least annually, if not twice a year, because we're running our trucks on there, and that was designed for that. So if you go into Fort Wayne Metals parking lot, the old Fort Wayne Metals across the street from our location, we park our trucks there, and that asphalt is destroyed. And I've paid professional companies to come and fix it on my own dime because we tear it up so much with our trucks. Our rotator empty weighs 80,000 pounds without anything on it. And so it's a big truck to turn. It is what it is. I did notice in that variance that when you ask for asphalt, you say from property line, and if you look at the property line on that map, the property line is way up onto our property. So I would ask that that's 10 foot off the roadway, not 10 foot off the property line. Because if we come up that grade on that rotator, we'll destroy the asphalt. But yes, to answer your question about the stone, we'll put in 6 inches of number 2 base and then 4 inches of an aggregate on top of it. We'll probably use slag or that.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does.
And even with dust control, we apply that now on our current property. So if we get into that situation, we're not afraid to get a hold of Mr. Knock over at Great Lakes Bull Riding.
All right, any other questions, board? Okay, seeing none. So we'll open the floor for anybody to speak for or against, which I don't see anybody. So we'll go ahead and.
Do I need to say any more about that asphalt I noticed is off the property line?
Come to the mic, Steve, and ask about it. So
sorry, my name's Steve Smith, SNK Stuff, Columbia City Iron Metal, all pro towing. 2305 East Cardinal Drive for business. I noticed in that it actually says off the property line, and that I know Nathan mentioned it earlier, but if you look at 100 South, how the road curves down on the map here, I would assume that property line would be off the steady blue line running towards US 30, not off of the And so our driveway comes across that easement. So I guess I'd want to see that amended where the asphalt only comes off of the roadway surface, if that's possible. Does that make sense, Nathan, or not?
It makes sense. Where staff was coming from with this, I'm less concerned about the part that is on the properties, that 10 feet, as I am the part that's in the right of way. I think the county highway manual actually has a specification that the part that's in the right of way needs to be paved.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be uncomfortable with taking the extra 10 feet off, but I think the part that's in the right of way still needs to be there, even though it's kind of longer than normal.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think that's the way it's stated here in our report. So the driveway shall be paved within the public road right of way and at least 10 foot onto the parcel. So if it's there in the right of way, we'd be all right then.
Yeah, if you wanted to remove the 10 feet onto the parcel, I wouldn't have any opposition to that.
All right, board, what is your pleasure on this?
I'm sorry, I'm still looking.
I move we approve petition 25W variance 16 filed by S&K Stuff with a suggested condition except removal of the last 10 foot onto the parcel.
Second.
Removal of that statement.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant with the conditions stated by staff. The driveway shall be paved within the public road right of way. Okay, we will vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? 5-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So, is there any other business for tonight?
I do not have any.
Okay. Anything from the staff or from the board?
We're the board.
Yes, you're the board.
They're the staff.
I'm sorry. Okay, seeing nothing, we'll go ahead and adjourn for tonight. Thank you all very much.
You're the chairman.